Jane, I wanted to come to you first because when David was presenting his report, he noted that there were particularly low levels of trust in Irish news providers, and he said that he wouldn't comment on that and he would leave that to Irish people. So that would seem only reasonable to come to you. And
Thanks, John.
I think it was you who wrote recently, I'm not entirely sure, that there were some reputational concerns with the news industry. And of course it does pose questions in terms of democratic engagement and citizenship if we're accessing news providers in which we have less trust than some of our near neighbours. And so I wonder if you would talk a little bit about why that might be, why the figures might be so low.
Okay, well I think the first thing to say is that next year, hopefully, we'll be able to tell you a lot more about it because there weren't that many questions about trust and different brands and that kind of thing this year. So all we can do is talk about the situation kind of globally rather than how it relates to any individual broadcaster or newspaper or other media outlet. But it was quite remarkable, we thought, about how the Irish people had less trust in their media than the British, and yet the British have just gone through a phone hacking scandal and the Levinson inquiry and all of this kind of thing. And one thing, there's two kind of different things. One is we wondered whether maybe it mirrored the very low levels of trust that Irish people have in politics, politicians and political parties, and that kind of circle of cynicism and distrust can also feed through to the news media. There is a theory that in the past, when journalists and politicians played the game, readers felt informed, whereas now when politicians and parties are trying to control journalists more and journalists are more cynical and more inclined to focus on horse race and scandal and that kind of thing, that it can actually be a circle that feeds on itself. But the other interesting thing is that the countries with high levels of trust are also countries which have very strong public and private broadcasters and newspapers. And whereas here we have a very strong public sector broadcaster, and again we can't say, but likely with high levels of trust, we don't have the same range of private sector broadcasters as there would be in the UK and things, and whether that feeds into it in some way, or the different ways that politics are covered. So all I can say really is that there's a lot of theories out there, and certainly internationally we can say that it mirrors trust with politics and politicians, and also that plurality is really important in building trust, and it's an area we'll be working on and doing some more research on.